Hey kids, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have a Les Paul on the bench today with kind of a intermittent problem. The customer came in and we kind of conferred together, and his complaint was the bridge pickup was not working. I tinkered with it a little bit with him, and sure enough, the bridge pickup was not working. Guess what? Let's get to work. Just the way it goes, I get it over here, and the bridge pickup starts working. Now, so we're going to call this an electrical diagnosis because I'm hearing a lot of touchy-feely, groundy issues. I did notice that when I was conferring with him. I already have the cavities open back here. Come on, you focus. What we're looking at, that should not be doing that. And I'm really suspecting some wiring issues, and because when I look down in here, touching wires, moving wires, things are happening wonky through the amp, and that's indicative of a bad ground. Globs of solder everywhere. Now I don't knock other people's work, but when I see something like this, I go, I don't think so. And I actually made a comment to the client, not interested in trying to sort out this kind of globbed up mess. And let me see if the camera can kind of catch it. It's really, really not the best, neatest job. I'm leaning towards probably wrong wiring, suspect solder joints, a combination of many things, not to mention the fact that by his own admission, the customer really digs on these knobs. Okay, I totally understand that, and I'm totally fine with it. But he got alpha cheapy offshore pots to put in here. They're not CTS. They're not. I don't even know if they're 250s or 500s. There's no. It doesn't denote on them anywhere what they are. When you got to solder two wires together on a five terminal pickup of any kind, you have to solder them together and then cover them. You don't just leave them open and exposed. And both of them are for the bridge and the neck. They're Gibson pickups. I just don't like that, and I'm going to recommend to him that we put new pots in it, because I think there's a lot of suspect wiring issues here. Now, we're going to go a little farther with the diagnosis. Even though the thing decided to start working, and the concern was, what happened was the event. He likes the bridge to point that way, by the way, on the three-way switch towards the headstock. He had some wiring work done recently, and it was working fine for about a month, and then all of a sudden the bridge stopped working. And of course I get it on my bench, and the bridge is working fine, and everything's kind of working fine right now, but it's not fine because I hear a lot of ground noise. I'm not sure why, but I'm going to de-string it in this episode, and we're going to pull these out, and I want to inspect the back of the pickups and probably desolder and pull them through. I did off camera, put a meter on it. I will do that now to illustrate, to see what the output of these pickups are. let's see, this is going to be the bridge, I believe. That would be the bridge, that would be the neck. I always get confused. Well, I was born confused and I never got over it. That's the bridge, I thought so. Okay. Yep. That would be the neck. Okay, so gotcha. Sometimes I gotta check. I just want to check the output so we know that this is right here. I'm curious what the reading is. I did this off camera and I think the bridge was very low output. Yep. 4.97. And the neck, all right, something wonky is going on here. When I checked this with the customer, I was getting almost 14 ohms resistance on the neck. The neck pickup, and we are now getting 5. We got it in the middle. Let's go all the way bridge. All the way bridge. 13.9. And this is why I don't agree with the way that this is wired. All the way neck. 7. But when you put it in the middle position, it effectively cuts everything down to 5. Now, yeah, that in and of itself isn't correct. And looking at what's going on here, I noticed that one of the tone pots is grounded. I don't like that. Both of the tone pots are grounded, and the caps are actually wired to the middle post, and I don't dig on that. This is not how I would wire up the traditional style wiring for a Les Paul. So I'm going to recommend to the client that we just get this stuff out and start fresh, because I'm suspecting a bad pot and also suspecting some bad wiring somewhere along the line. Because just by moving stuff around, I have gotten the bridge pickup to work, and that's just indicative of something is shorting out somewhere, or a bad solder joint it could be. And looking at the job, the solder job here, and the actual style of wiring, I don't dig it. And you add to that on top to compound it, they're alpha pots. They're just cheap pots, and they're prone to failure and not good performance. So I'm not upselling. I am not, when I get an issue like this, I say start from fresh, put known good parts in it, and usually you will sort out the problem that way, just from experience. A side note, as I do with every guitar, I checked the neck relief, I checked the string height, and I checked the pickup. And let me tell you, I don't know how this guitar is playing because the neck is in a back bow. I couldn't even get the feeler gauge into it, and the string height is at about less than 3 on the bass side and around 2 on the treble side. And just as sure as God made little green apples, it's buzzing open, which it should not do. And the pickups are just monstrously close. So there's a setup in the future for this. Yes, I'm going to keep the action as low as possible, but it needs the correct neck relief and all that. And since I'm going to take the strings off anyway to get these pickups out and inspect what's going on back there, because that's an unknown, we'll know more once we do that. So stand by while I de-string. So quite simply, we just took the strings off, and they are Gibson pickups. That's no big surprise. There is a lot of goop on the back of this pickup, like it's been bleeding. This one is clean. 490R. There's no notation to say whether this is a neck or bridge, and no notation to say whether this is a neck or bridge, but we're just going to assume that they're in the right position. Lots of extra wire. Holy smokes. What kind of extra wire? I didn't notice that there was all that much extra wire. And where was it sitting? Down in a cavity somewhere. Okay, that's a problem. You don't need an extra 16 inches of wire hanging out down in the cavity there. You're just asking for trouble. I don't see any markings or damage on them. But as I said, there's nothing more to reveal what would cause our issue or customer's concern. But wow, when you pull out that much extra wiring, that means it's looped up into a cavity, a chambered cavity there. I think this guitar is chambered because it's pretty light. So I'm going to recommend a complete rewire, and I'm going to put a new 3-way switch in just to eliminate that as a cause or a problem. 4 new pots and a rewire. There's really nothing. There's no other direction to go in with it. Initially, this guitar had push-pull function. To his credit, he said, get rid of that crap, and had somebody do this wiring job. So he had the right idea, but it didn't come out well. And I'm afraid to say that this has to go in the way of the dodo. All of this wiring, to me, is suspect, especially when you see an extra. I only want enough lead to go into that cavity from the pickup to make it from here to there, and maybe have one loop around a pot. That's it. And it'll all be right there in that cavity, not somewhere up in the body somewhere where anything could be happening to it. You follow? That's my take on it. You guys can argue that ad nauseum, and I'm sure you will. Everybody has their way of doing things. I'm not saying that this is wrong. I'm just saying it's not as neat and kosher as I would like it. And I think once I do it my way, it's going to eliminate whatever ghost problem we're experiencing here, because that's really what it is, a ghost problem. Because when your tooth is hurting and you go to the dentist and it all of a sudden stops hurting, that's a ghost problem. And I, with my own eyes, and tested it with the client, and this was not working. So there's a little micro wire somewhere not doing what it's supposed to do, or in addition to not wired correctly, not the way I would wire it for a Les Paul, and cheap pots. And I'm going to assume that if it's cheap pots, it's probably a cheap three-way switch. I don't know. It might be the original three-way. But that's as far as we're going to go with it today. I'm sorry that that's all this video was. But the next one, we're going to pop it open. We're going to get these off. We're going to put 4 new pots in there. We're going to rewire everything. We're going to snip off any excess pickup leads. And we're going to rewire the three-way switch. So basically, we're doing a complete rewire on it, but it's going to be clean and neat and correct when I get done with it. It's Blackjack with 396 guitars with the mystery electrical problem and a Les Paul. We'll get back to you. Talk soon. Remember, if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe, and please share.